George's African American Museum and Cultural Center, where we are having our Pride of Place Parlor, where we celebrate all things that make Prince George's County wonderful and amazing, and all of the people who do the same. My name is Jessica Smith-Hebron. I am the Interim Executive Director here at the museum, and today I'm joined by three powerful kings who were a part of something revolutionary that took place in our county, which was Bridging the Brentwoods, a march for the movement. This march and rally celebrated the fact that Black Lives Matter and also bridged together two towns, North Brentwood and the Town of North Brentwood and the Town of Brentwood, that are neighboring towns that have been working together and separately doing powerful work in the community, in their respective communities and collaboratively. This program, Bridging the Brentwoods, a march for the movement, was not only a march and a rally, but it was also there to bring the communities together to make sure that we were eradicating police brutality. Today, we're going to have some fun with our Pride of Place Parlor as we speak to these kings and also talk about what were some of their favorite memories of the march. This reflection is going to be a time to look back and also talk about how can we move forward in 2020 with all of the political and social unrest in Prince George's County and throughout the world. We're trying to figure out, how do we move forward? Where do we go from here? And what's it gonna take to make it a brighter day? So I'd like to introduce and welcome everyone. Hello. Okay.
Hey.
All right, let's start with Evan. Would you like to start introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi, my name is Evan Dame. I'm a council person for North Brentwood, Maryland. And I came to the town because I was born and raised there and actually a fourth generation resident.
Okay. Marcus?
Hey, I'm Marcus Monroe, council member for Brentwood, Maryland. What brought me there was actually the community. I was really drawn to the arts community, the diversity, etc. Moved up from Florida, lived in DC for a little bit, and then was looking to settle down and have kids and with my wife. So I could find no better place than the gateway community.
All right. And Charles?
I'm Charles Wiley, council member in North Brentwood. I guess I moved here about 7 years ago with my family. We were looking to buy our first house, looking for a community where we could raise our kids, kind of like when I grew up. North Brentwood has been that and some, and it kind of motivated me to kind of give back. So.
Do you want to talk about just who had the idea for the march? Tell me more about the history of how the march came to be.
Marcus.
So it was a combination of a few conversations, I think, that happened organically. First, Vice Mayor Harrison Edwards reached out to me, and I know she also reached out to some of the folks in North Brentwood about this concept of a march and doing something, create some unity. And she volunteered me that she thought that'd be a good idea for me to lead it, which I happily jumped to, because I've been looking for an opportunity to connect more with the North Brentwood community, and this was a perfect lightning rod. So from that point, we had a series of talks and conversations through Facebook, phone calls, and honestly, I think I forgot who said it at one point, but the way it all came together was eerily easy because everyone meshed well. Anybody we asked to help out, they said yes. The stars aligned with the weather, so it was all a lot of good things that came together. So that was the impulse, was to try and do a unifying event like this, and at the same time we knew we wanted to also build it into something bigger. What would be the message? So and then Jessica and I think we were sitting down going over names with some sticky notes, and Bridging the Brentwood was this phrase that came out, and it captured perfectly what all the group discussion was all about how you bring together historically a town that was the sundown town with this historically, great African-American led town, and how do you bring those two together? And it, both as a metaphor and literally, marching between both towns. I think that those were all the things we kept talking about, and the phrase Bridging and Brentwood really made sense. And then having the museum come into play at the end, that all, like I said, it all came together perfectly.
It did. It really did. So let's talk about think back and think about your favorite memory from the march. I know that we all have many favorite memories, but if you could just say just one or two that really, really stuck out in your mind's eye, what would you say that it would be?
I'll go first. I'll piggyback on what Marcus said about the ease of everything. I think my favorite moment was right before the march started, and I heard a young lady singing, and I just asked her to sing the Black National Anthem. Things like that, and like he said, the stars aligned, everything. It was really scary how easy it was to put on this event. It was so, I think that was my favorite part of the whole thing. Just knowing that we were doing the right thing and we were led, everything that was put in our hearts manifested tenfold. So that's my favorite part.
How about you, Evan?
I think my favorite part would definitely be when we walked down Rhode Island Avenue and blocked traffic, to the dismay of the chief. But it was an amazing experience because people weren't blowing their horn out of impatience, but they were actually blowing it out of support. And they were yelling and screaming, like, go ahead, yeah, Black Lives Matter. And it was people of all colors and creeds. And so it was definitely a very impactful and powerful experience that I'll never forget. And with the music in the background as like a soundtrack, Freedom by Pharrell Williams, it couldn't have been a better song. Thanks to Wiley for picking that particular track, but it all aligned as they both intimated, like it was meant to be.
What about you, Marcus?
He stole my favorite moment. I'm not gonna lie. That I would say that it was I can't lie, that was my favorite. Knowing what went into it, because for folks watching this, we had a lot of conversations about absolutely not doing that. I told the chief that we would not go down the street, and he was concerned for safety, and just wanted to make sure that we were all, being in the current national climate, you've seen things go wrong, and I know he was really nervous. But seeing the police, and a testament to also the collaboration between the Brentwood police and then the Mount Rainier police, they provided us coverage to make sure, once we walked out to this intersection, you can see that they blocked things off in a way that we made sure we felt safe. And then at that point, we all just looked around and just kind of unanimously said, let's make it happen. Let's get in the streets. So that's what made it enjoyable for me, was the context. Was that you have two, a Black police chief, a white police chief from two different towns, and there's officers supporting that, supporting what was going on and protecting us. And then you had citizens, random people, driving down the street, just supporting it. So that whole moment for me was very memorable. That's something I never forget. And then on top of that, we were all of the delegation from District 47 and were out there with us. A senator was out there, Senator Amalgam was out there with us as well. So having those folks out in the front, and then to see us all just sort of unanimously just feel it as a right moment to turn down the street and block traffic, it was beautiful. So
I would say that, from my end, I was able to see two different sides. So, I was able to see, the woman sing Lift Every Voice and Sing, and see all of the powerful calls to actions from all of the politicians and community workers that was at the beginning of the rally. And everybody had something different to say that didn't make it seem like, okay, we're just saying the same thing over and over again. Each call to action was poignant and right on time. And then as I saw everybody walking, I was trying to hurry up and get to the museum so I could meet you guys. So, I'm zooming in my car, not speeding, but getting to the museum. So from my angle, now I see this line, this parade of people, and I love a parade. Protest parade even better. And I see all of these people, most in Black, with signs, coming up the road with the music, on the wagon. And, you guys are coming up, and it's peaceful and it's powerful at the same time. We all were worried. We didn't know, just given the topic that we were marching for, we weren't sure what would happen. But I think the thing that surprised me the most was how quiet the whole event was. It was really really quiet. Now, when I mean peaceful, I mean, of course, it was peaceful as in nobody got hurt, but it was also quiet. Like people's presence was a statement in itself, because you didn't just have Black people, you had white people, you had little children. Marcus, your wife, I think my favorite part, and I know this is going to sound so random, but when your wife brought, you know, your children were there and there were other children there, and I thought that was important for them to take place in history. And not only that, she had something that was age appropriate for them. They were passing out protest popsicles. And, you know,
Right.
I thought that that was a way for them to get
Right.
involved in a way that was age appropriate. It was helping them to connect with the community. And I know that you had already explained to them what this was about. And so I, you know, just as an educator, I thought that was so important to not just see adults doing everything, but a way for them to get involved. That means that they can say, you know, I was a part of a march, even though they're like under 6 years old.
Correct.
Yeah, that was really important.
Now, I'll add on to that too. I will say the candlelight vigil was very powerful. And I know, again, we were worried because we're outside. We didn't know what was going to happen with the weather. Traffic, people could have just been out there, you know, honking horns the whole time for all we knew. But again, the way it all played out was beautiful. And then for everyone to sort of respect the time and space needed to have that candlelight vigil, I thought, you know, Jessica and your staff did a wonderful job with that. So I thought that was really beautiful. And some of my favorite photos from the event were from people. We were practicing social distance, everybody is watching this, but we were, you know, sharing candle lights and spreading the light around the group that was there. So I thought that was pretty powerful.
For you is, so describe the impact that you feel that the march had in the community.
I'll go first on that one. I think so. For Brent, I'll speak specifically to Brentwood. I think it allowed people the ability to just tap into what was bubbling up inside a lot of folks, because they just wanted to be able to either participate in something or have an opportunity to just meet other folks that were like-minded in that they wanted to respond to the historical moment that's going on. And it also was a way for people to feel like there was that their leadership is responding as well. So a lot of times, you know, if we're even, you know, in small towns, we may not be responding to a specific issue. At the end of the day, we may not be, we don't have a death or some atrocity that just recently happened, right? Even though historical things may have happened in between the towns, we don't have a particular moment. So people are looking for somewhere to put their energy in a positive way. And so I thought that was the good part about that moment. It gave people a sort of an outlet and a starting point. So
if I can go next. I thought it was one of the most significant events in Brentwood and North Brentwood's history, considering the past of those two towns and the segregation and the fact, as Marcus mentioned, about the sundown towns. In fact, my uncle was a victim of that period in the history because he was stabbed for going to Brentwood at the wrong time. And although he survived, he nearly lost his life. So to see these two towns come together today is probably something he would have never imagined, my mother would have never imagined, and my grandmother and great-grandfather would have never imagined. And so as I look back on that and consider that I'm a part of that as a fourth-generation resident, it's something that's impactful not only to me, but to my family and to the history that they have here as original settlers. You know, to be able to carry that torch and help to bridge the towns together when in the past it may have never happened, and to destroy the de facto segregation that still even exists today between the two towns. I mean, I think it's something that's long lasting, in fact, everlasting. And I really am thankful to have been a part of that.
And having the two mayors read the proclamation was another of my favorite parts, because I think Mayor Robinson was saying, you know, segregation has been over for these two towns. However, she was saying she didn't think that there had ever been a time when people had a formalized proclamation reading about making sure that those things would never happen again. And so that part right there, I feel, you know, proclamations are super official. And so I thought that was really important as an action item, not to wait till after the march, but at the march, we had something that we can say, hey, this is why we're making sure that we're moving forward in a positive direction.
Yep.
Having both those mayors, you know, both mayors together was just, it was wonderful. And then even the fact that there are 2 female mayors, reading those proclamations, just, there was a lot of things that you have to know the history to see why it was so powerful. You know, you have 2 women mayors of both towns, the color of them. You have 1 Latina, 1 African American. There's a whole lot of stuff that was happening that if you just like came and you weren't aware, you might not know it. But now that's why I said this is the time for us to talk about those things. And Evan, thank you for sharing about your uncle. I had no idea. Okay.
I think, like Evan said, that was a healing moment for the communities. That was a, I forgive you and let's move forward. And we're looking forward to the collaboration with the 2 towns and possibly extending that even more. So.
Okay. Marcus, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've been looking for, I'm an agitator, like community agitator by nature. So I present as like a mild-mannered person, but you know, I'm all the way through looking for ways to create change at all times. And so that was the main reason why I got on the council. So for me, taking the energy of what you hear from people on the sidewalks, and now I can actually legislate that or encourage it or do my part from a position of power. You know, still feel weird to say that, but you know, that's, so for me, that's the part that was really changing, because now you have, like you mentioned, the 2 mayors are women of color, and honestly, which is also a thing that my kids grew up in as a bubble of a uniqueness, is that the 5 area towns are led by women of color. And so, like Charles mentioned, you know, these opportunities now for us to be able to build those bridges between all the area towns, right? It's a lot going on. It's not just those bridges in the Brentwoods, but it's also, if you look around, you know, just to have all 5 towns, immediate towns led by women of color, the national context, this march, what we're trying to do next, having allies and accomplices from different races that are looking to galvanize and support. It's the, you know, so it's really the right time. So that's why, you know, for me, every time I'm at these events, I'm happy. I'm like, man, you don't get too many opportunities to do things like this. You know what I mean? And the fact that my kids can see it, you know, this is stuff you would theorize about in school, reading about African American history or literature, or reading about our, you know, the folks that came before us, and for us to actually be able to affect change, police accountability, the way you dismantle, you know, historical institutions of power at the local and county level, which is where you have the most control, to be honest. It's so many things. I can go an hour listening to the things that people don't realize are aligning right now, and that, you know, having these 2 gentlemen I can collaborate with, again, on positions of power, you know, it's just amazing. You know, I pinch myself because I can call these guys up on the phone and say, you know, let's share some insight or some questions or comments about, oh, I'm thinking of doing this. Cool, I got you. I'm there to support. I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think about this? Oh, we can do, you know. So it's just, you know, I didn't grow up with that. I didn't see any, personally for me, I didn't have any people of color in positions of power that I traditionally grew up around, whether that be in any of the towns I've lived in until now. So, you know, it's just very unique. So that's the part I'm really charged about.
So what I want you to do is show and tell. You can tell us about an item, and we'll show some of the pictures of something that if you had to hold on to it in your treasure box, what would be an item that would always remind you of the march, or even one that one day you might want to see in a museum that is significant to the march? What would be your item?
I guess I'll go first. For our march specifically, would have to be the candle. It's a powerful statement that you can light one candle and that could light the way for hundreds of other people. And seeing, like Marcus said earlier, seeing that flame being passed and being shared, there's a powerful force in fire. It can create, it can destroy, it can do a lot of things. It can purify. And I believe that a lot of the people who were at the march were purified through fire. So that's my show and tell, like the candle.
And another cool thing about those candles was, that was another part of we had Kwanzaa principles happening all over through this march. So the collective work and responsibility from us setting up and, working on the event, but just the cooperative economics, all of us contributed to the candles to make sure that we had enough, because we weren't sure how many people we were going to have. So I was like, look at all the Kwanzaa principles. This is such a Black march. I love it. Okay, go ahead.
I'll go next. So mine is actually a selfie that I took during the march.
Okay.
And I took it being vain, just trying to capture the moment. But then when I went to look back at it and I saw who was all in the photo, it was me, who was a millennial. And then you had Reverend K, who was a Gen X. You had his teenage sons who were Gen Z. And then you had Delegate Diana Fennell, who was a baby boomer. And I saw all these generations coming together for one purpose. But it was also kind of somber because I recognized that we're marching for the exact same reason that our ancestors had marched. And in fact, as much as things have changed, many things have stayed the same. And so to see the baby boomers, I was wondering how they feel sitting up there marching after they already witnessed Martin Luther King marching and John Lewis marching. And the same thing is still happening as much as those men sacrificed. And now it's our time to do something similar. Thank God, things are better. We're not being hosed down or beaten nearly to death. So then we have the freedom to march without, retaliation, violent retaliation anyway. But it was still kind of somber to think that 60 years later, we're still marching because we're being mistreated by those in power, only because of the color of our skin. So, and that picture really told that story for me.
For me, it's there's a photo at the end where we all got together in front of the fence. And, I know you, again, it's always a context for me because I know the staff have been working really hard. And then so for me, it's like the photo is a reminder of like remembering them paint the fence. And also, you can see a little bit of the landscaping that, again, I know a lot of effort just went into the presentation of that moment. So one part, I love that photo at the end of all was standing in front of the fence. Some of us have like our fist up, and I think I have my kids with me as well. And, but that's also a photo where you look back and we're all 20 years from now looking at the photo, like, oh man, so-and-so was there. Oh, I forgot, that's so-and-so that's doing this now. Oh yeah, I knew them back then. Don't worry, I can call them right now. It's like we can do things that it felt weird. Like when we hear those stories about like Malcolm X's and his contemporaries and their kids grew up together, and then those kids grew up to be leaders in the struggle in some fashion. But they just all grew up. It was just so common, and so my kids would get up being able to grow up around you folks, where I can be like, oh yeah, that was Councilmember Dame, Councilmember Wiley, and Jessica, she was director of the program. We say it so casually, but that photo captures so much to me and a lot that it seems so second nature, but realistically, that's a very historic photo because this is the time in our life we'll be able to look back and remember who all those folks were there and who were all, like I said, being community agitators with. So that's probably the photo I remember the most.
My favorite will be, I guess, seconding on yours, will actually be the mural that was created for the march. So when we were decorating for the march, yes, that's what we were trying to get the house ready for guests to come over after the museum had been closed, for so long. I said, we need a mural and we need something. Like there's murals popping up all over DC. And I'm not so sure which ones are all over Prince George's County, but the museum needs a mural. What can we do? We have 2 days. And so I was talking to our marketing and gallery coordinator, Mayor Petrella Robinson, and I said, we need to say something. We can do Black Lives Matter, but, I think we get the point. Like there's a lot of Black Lives Matter murals already? What can we do that has the same focus, but it's just a little bit different? When I look at that, and now, you know, after the march, you talk about the impact. Now I see people driving up, you know, and getting their pictures next to the mural. And that's exactly what I wanted them to do. I wanted it to resonate with them and make them, you know, stop and snap a picture. Because they say, hey, yeah, you know what? My roots are revolutionary. Gosh darn it. They are. Okay, so I want you to imagine Prince George's County 20 years from now. Look into your magical ball. And I want you to see into the future. And I want you to tell me, what does Prince George's County look like? You can tell me what North Brentwood looks like, or Brentwood, or you can just look at the whole county, whatever you want to say. Tell me what it looks like to you. What do you envision?
That's a hard one. I guess it's going to look totally different.
Okay.
You can see the change in the county, and because we're so close to DC, we can see the change in right across the line coming into this part. And our town looks different. The demographics are extremely different than it was 7 years ago. But I think there's going to be a mix of people. We're not going to be the majority. I don't believe Black people will be the majority in our town. Because of the way the Route 1 corridor is building up, I'm afraid that African Americans are behind, and we haven't been investing and kind of guaranteeing that we'll be able to take advantage of this boom. So I think hopefully, that's why I'm here now, to kind of educate. But if we don't receive that education, I believe in 20 years, this is going to look totally different, and we won't be the majority.
Are you speaking of gentrification?
I am speaking of gentrification.
I
go to church in Southeast, and
what it is.
Well, just to be transparent, I go to church. My church is down the street from the Big Chair.
Okay.
I don't go jogging around that area, but I've seen other ethnic groups doing that within the past 5 years, and it's more and more. So you can see the change, and it's just been coming on up Route 1.
Mm-hmm. Like a pandemic.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just saying. Okay. Yeah, right. Evan, what do you think?
Basically piggybacking on what Wiley said, I see it as more cosmopolitan than it is right now. Not only with whites, but Latinos, Latinas, Asians, Africans. I mean, I see Prince George's County, I can see it becoming probably one of the most diverse counties in Maryland, if it isn't already. As far as Black people losing in gentrification, I honestly think I see Black people moving up, because recently with the whole George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, a lot of people are paying attention to the inequalities in the Black community and are willing to do something about that. And there have been statistics that shown that Black businesses are doing actually exceptionally well this year, because more people are supporting their own. And so I hope, with the hope that that continues, I can see Prince George's County flourishing even more, continuing to be the richest predominantly Black county in the country. So my vision is very much optimistic, maybe even Pollyannish, but I see Black people rising, and maybe not being the majority numerically, but maybe socioeconomically, which I think would be even better.
Okay. Marcus?
Yeah, so for me, it's empowerment. That's the one word I'm always pushing towards, and I think we can do it. Part of it is that, like they mentioned, the number of affluent African Americans in the county, the number of opportunities, the number of focused programs on development and historically underserved communities that's going on right now, as far as what's happening in the last 10 to 15 years in the Route 1 corridor to the future. You can see the plan is there for Route 1 to become a true, gateway community. So if you go up to College Park and work your way on back to Mount Rainier, there's clear signs of development up along the way. And so that's going to continue. So I think to Councilman Dame's point that we can take advantage of that, it's there. And we just got to make sure, like Charles was saying, we just got to make sure we educate folks. But empowerment is the one thing that I see. I think we'll see a truly empowered African or Black American base in the county. So that's always going to be one of my major tenets to my lifetime, is what I want to see over the next phase of my life is, true Black empowerment and Black economic empowerment for the next 20 years. So.
Okay. Mayor Robinson, the Queen, we want to let you go last. Tell us, what do you envision for Prince George's County? What is it going to look like 20 years from now?
I'm praying that history will repeat itself. I do plan to be here 20 more years. I do. I'll be 90 then. Okay. I'll be 90 then. Okay. So I do still plan to be here, but I don't know. I feel that history, it would be a melting pot. It would definitely be a melting pot if we're here at that point. But I still believe that history will repeat itself. I believe Black entrepreneurs are going to flourish because of y'all young men here, a young woman here. I believe that, and we have a lot of them. Y'all are a different group of people. I mean, we had our age when we fought for everything that we have fought for right now. Now it's immensely grown to the level that your millenniums, you don't let things stay the way they are like we did a long time ago. A long time ago, we were just satisfied. We were just like, okay, we can sit at that counter. You know what I mean? So I'm saying we're all right, So I think, and I'm praying that the change will be the millenniums that will be ready to move forward, and small businesses will come back. Mm-hmm. Small businesses will come, because that's what we had a long time ago, was entrepreneurs and those great scientists, and they thought about doing it this way and that way. I'm always looking at, I go get my nails done or something like that. The Asian group of people always have a different way of doing things that I would have never thought of doing. I'm saying those little plastic pieces, just simple things like the plastics that they use, the plastic pipes that they use when they built the petition. Mm-hmm. They built the petition so that we would be able, us Black folks, because it's not a whole bunch of white folks who go get their nails and stuff. Come on, really. But I'm saying this is how innovative they are. And they use what they have. But y'all are so smart. We talked about, what's the houses up there, Councilman Wiley, the people behind you doing those container houses. Mm-hmm. Okay. Black entrepreneurs are thinking outside the box. I believe, and I do trust that as smart as you are and the more you fight, I think we're going to repeat history, and small businesses, Black businesses will come back, and they will come back thriving.
That's wonderful. So let's close this Pride of Place program. I'm so honored to be with you. 1, 2, 3, 4. When I count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, yes. So honored to be with you guys today, because you are doing so many powerful things in the community and your families, and even just for yourselves. And I'm really, really proud of each of you. And you guys have pride of place. You exude pride of place. And I'm hoping that everyone who's watching this program today will just, get that contagious spirit of having pride of place of where you live. Can you guys close off this program with summing up how you envision Prince George's County in one word? Marcus, we know you had the word empowerment. We're going to make that into an affirmation. So think about your one word, and we're going to start. Marcus, let's make it into an affirmation. So we're going to say Prince George's County is empowered, and everybody, we're going to say it together. All right. So Marcus, say Prince George's County is empowered, and we're going to repeat after you.
All right. Prince George's County is empowered.
Prince George's County
is empowered.
What about you, Evan? What's your word?
Amalgam.
Amalgam?
Mm-hmm.
How do we put that in a whole affirmation? I'm just, sorry.
I'm getting ready to pull out Webster's dictionary for Evan.
Evan. I'm gonna have to edit
Oh
this
my
part,
God.
but this is kind of funny. It may stand. Look at us trying to be all sophisticated, and then you got to throw us off, Evan. Thank you,
Amalgam. Right.
Evan. Help us out.
Well, an amalgam is like a mixture of different things coming together as one. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you want to say Prince George's County is an amalgam?
Sure.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's
There
how
you
it
go.
works.
Is it a verb? Is it a noun? I don't know. Okay, go ahead, Evan. Say this affirmation.
Prince George's County is an amalgam.
Prince George's.
Prince George's County is an amalgam.
amalgam.
Okay, Charles, what's your word?
Unified.
Unified. All right,
Unified.
go ahead, Charles. Get that
Prince
affirmation.
George's County is unified.
Prince George's County.
George's County is unified.
Unified.
And finally, the Queen, Mayor Robinson. What's your word?
Okay. I'm going to say Prince George's County is revitalized.
Ready? Say it with us.
Prince
Prince
George's
George's
County
County is revitalized.
Yes, amen, and all of those things. I thank you guys for joining us for our Prince George's African American Museum Pride of Place Parlor, where we're celebrating all the things that we love about Prince George's County. Join us next time for another exciting interview, and we thank everyone who was on the panel today. When you get a second, please go and check and support the towns of North Brentwood and the town of Brentwood. They are thriving and doing amazing things in Prince George's County.